I'm going to show you some magic frequencies for electric guitars, places where you can look to boost or cut with EQ that tend to work across a variety of tones and genres. And I'll show you how it works on both clean and distorted guitars. So here's the track. All right, I'm gonna mute the vocals so we can just focus closely on the guitars. Let's start with where to boost. So the first magic frequency I'll give you is 1K, and this is the frequency that's gonna put your guitars up front and give them a lot more energy and take up more space in the mix. So let's listen on these rhythm guitars here. I'll solo it out for you. See how it just pops them right up front in the mix and makes them sound a lot bigger, honestly. And the next magic frequency is 2.5K. Now this might seem like it's really close to 1K, but it sounds quite different. So listen to this. Let's go down here. I'll get rid of the 1K boost so you can hear the difference. So 1K, a little more full. 2 to 2.5K, it's more of an edgy, bitey, aggressive sound. So this is where I would look if I had an extra layer or lead guitar that I really wanted to cut through the mix in a more aggressive way. Now, you do need to be careful with boosting these high-mid frequencies. I'll come back to that a little later, but first let's talk about getting brightness in your guitars. There's two frequencies you can look at for adding brightness. Okay, the first frequency for brightness is 5K, and this is gonna give you an overall lift in the top end brightness of your guitars with a lot of definition. So listen to this. So we get the brightness, but also kind of more of the scratch and pick attack, which can be really helpful sometimes. Now, if that's too aggressive sounding, the second place to look in your guitars for brightness is at 8K. So listen to this instead. So this is more of a fizzy or even airy brightness to the guitars. It's very Chris Lord-Alge style. Helps to give it a bit of a lift, maybe marry the guitars with the top end of the cymbals on the drums in a nice way without being too grindy and aggressive in that 4 or 5K range. And you might notice these guitar tracks are sounding a little bit harsh. No worries, it's an easy fix. And by the way, all of these frequencies I'm talking about are available outlined on my mixing cheat sheet, which you can grab for free at mixcheatsheet.com. It just gives you the starting points for EQ and compression for not only guitars, but also all the other tracks in the mix as well. So go ahead and grab that if you want. Now let's talk about fixing that harshness in the guitars. I'm gonna pull up another EQ here. So this is the next magic frequency. Usually there is some nastiness between 3.5 and 4.5K that it helps to notch out. So let's try and find where it is here. I think it's right there, right around 4K. So some guys like to nuke these right out. I like to not cut it too much because there is some energy in there. You can hear how that cleans it up a lot. Okay, I'm gonna show you how these EQ moves apply to clean guitars just as well. But before we get there, let's quickly just talk about the low end. You want a high pass filter most electric guitars, typically around 100 Hertz, give or take about 20. So from 80 to about 120 on your main electric guitars. So I'll do it on this EQ here just so you can visually see what's happening. Hear that rumble come in? If you go too high up, in this case around 150, it's starting to sound too thin. So probably around 100 to 120 on these guitar tracks works well. You just want to get rid of all of that low end boominess and woofiness and rumble that exists, especially in heavy distorted tracks. And if you have a layered guitar or a lead guitar, you can actually high pass filter it a lot higher, up around 200. So check this out. These octave guitars, here it is without the filter. So we can get rid of a lot of that low-end rumble that's taking up a lot of space frequency-wise in the mix, but it's not really contributing anything to the part at all. Now, notice I haven't boosted any low end yet. Now, the low mids are really important for electric guitars, but I tend to try and leave those alone as much as possible. My strategy is to use these other frequencies I've showed you to try and brighten it up or give it a little more energy or bring it more up front while leaving the meat of the tone intact, the meat being around 100 to 1K. And this is because I've found that the more you EQ guitars, especially the more distorted they are, it starts to kind of hurt instead of help. And that brings me back to these high mid frequencies that I warned you about, because if you boost 1K and 2.5K and 5K on a bunch of guitar tracks in your mix, well, they're gonna be all on top of each other, fighting each other. It's gonna start to sound thin and harsh, and you're gonna have a hard time getting your vocal to cut through and sit on top. Plus, the more you boost those high mid frequencies, you're having the effect of diminishing the lower mids where a lot of the power and meat is. So I typically avoid aggressively sculpting guitar tones with EQs in the mix. And if you find yourself having to make really massive EQs with guitars to make them fit in the mix, you might be better off just reamping them. So with all that said, let's check out these frequencies again on a clean guitar tone in this mix. So we can high pass filter all the way up to 200. Now let's hear 1K. Again, hear how that just brings it right up front. Okay, let's try 2.5K as well to give it a little more edge and bite. Let you hear that in solo. Okay, once we do that, we probably need less 1K. All right, and let's try the bright frequencies, 5 and 8. I find you can typically get away with more aggressive EQ moves the cleaner the tone is compared to heavily distorted tones. So try these frequencies out on your guitar tracks. Just remember, don't make these moves just because I told you to. You have to listen and make sure that you're making decisions based on what you hear and what the track needs. So grab that mixing cheat sheet. There's a link below if you want all these frequencies written out for quick reference. And if you want to learn my magic frequencies for bass guitar, check out this video here.